The House of Silence and Other Tales by E. Nesbit. Read by Roy Macready. The House of Silence. The thief stood close under the high wall, and looked to right and left. To the right the road wound white and sinuous, lying like a twisted ribbon over the broad grey shoulder of the hill. To the left the road turned sharply down towards the river. Beyond the ford the road went away slowly in a curve, prolonged for miles through the green marshes. No least black fly of a figure stirred on it. There were no travellers at such an hour on such a road. The thief looked across the valley, at the top of the mountain flush with sunset, and at the grey-green of the olives about its base. The terraces of olives were already dusk with twilight, but his keen eyes could not have missed the smallest variance or shifting of their lights and shadows. Nothing stirred there. He was alone. Then, turning, he looked again at the wall behind him. The face of it was grey and sombre, but all along the top of it, in the crannies of the coping stones, orange wallflowers and sulphur-coloured snapdragons shone among the haze of feathery flowered grasses. He looked again at the place where some of the stones had fallen from the coping, had fallen within the wall, for none lay on the road without. The bough of a mighty tree covered the gap with its green mantle from the eyes of any chance wayfarer. But the thief was no chance wayfarer, and he had surprised the only infidelity of the great wall to its trust. To the chance wayfarer, too, the wall's denial had seemed absolute, unanswerable. Its solid stone, close-knit by mortar hardly less solid, showed not only a defence, it offered a defiance, a menace. But the thief had learnt his trade. He saw that the mortar might be loosened a little here, broken a little there, and now the crumbs of it fell rustling onto the dry, dusty grass of the roadside. He drew back, took 2 quick steps forward, and with a spring, sudden and agile as a cat's, grasped the wall where the gap showed, and drew himself up. Then he rubbed his hands on his knees, because his hands were bloody from the sudden grasping of the rough stones, and sat astride on the wall. He parted the leafy boughs and looked down. Below him lay the stones that had fallen from the wall. Already grass was growing upon the mound they made. As he ventured his head beyond the green leafage, the level light of the sinking sun struck him in the eyes. It was like a blow. He dropped softly from the wall and stood in the shadow of the tree, looking, listening. Before him stretched the park, wide and still, dotted here and there with trees, and overlaid with gold poured from the west. He held his breath and listened. There was no wind to stir the leaves to those rustlings which may deceive and disconcert the keenest and the boldest. Only the sleepy twitter of birds, and the little sudden soft movements of them in the dusky privacy of the thick-leaved branches. There was in all the broad park no sign of any other living thing. The thief trod softly along under the wall where the trees were thickest, and at every step he paused to look and listen. It was quite suddenly that he came upon the little lodge near the great gates of wrought iron, with the marble gateposts bearing upon them the 2 gaunt griffins, the cognizance of the noble house whose lands these were. The thief drew back into the shadow and stood still. Only his heart beat thickly. He stood still as the tree-trunk beside him, looking, listening. He told himself that he heard nothing, saw nothing, yet he became aware of things, that the door of the lodge was not closed, that some of its windows were broken, and that into its little garden straw and litter had drifted from the open door, and that between the stone step and the threshold grass was growing inches high. When he was aware of this, he stepped forward and entered the lodge. All the sordid sadness of a little deserted home met him here. Broken crocks and bent pans, straw, old rags, and a brooding, dusty stillness. "There has been no one here since the old keeper died." "They told the truth," said the thief. And he made haste to leave the lodge, for there was nothing in it now that...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?